Hello, everybody. Happy Tuesday, August 15th, 2023. It is 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time as of the time I'm recording this. So welcome to episode 10. Yes, folks, we made it to 10 episodes of Sports Talk from the Heart with Nicky Steez. And being that it is mid-August, we're pushing closer to football seasons. Over these next coming months, you're going to be seeing lots of football content on the weekly Tuesday shows. You maybe get some other stuff sprinkled in, maybe a little bit of NBA once the season starts, maybe some other big stories, but we're mainly going to talk NFL. And being that the Eagles did have their first preseason game, I'm going to talk about that. Then we're going to talk a little bit about the two big running back signs that happened yesterday. Ezekiel Elliott joining the Patriots and Dalvin Cook joining the Jets, being teammates with Aaron Rodgers. We're going to talk about that too. And then there's another story we're going to talk about. It's not going to be the happiest note, but it is an important story in the sports world. It's about former NFL player Michael Orr, who the Blind Side movie was starring Sandra Bullock was built around. It's a saddening story about him that unfortunately changes the perspective of the Blind Side, but I'll get to that later in the end. First, we're going to talk some Eagles football. And to everyone tuning in, first, here's the link to my channel. If you haven't come across my channel yet, it's right there in the chat. So if you haven't done so, you can check out my channel, sub it up. And I'm also going to share the link to the Hardcore Sports Network channel. And then after that, we're going to get this thing started, all right? So there's the Hardcore Sports Network's channel, link to subscribe to that. I'll keep them both in the chat. I'll pull them back up as the stream goes along. But let's get right into it. We got some Eagles football to discuss. We have technically the first game of the 2023-24 season. Preseason opener against the Baltimore Ravens. I mean, we did lose 2019, which it doesn't mean anything anyway. The crazy part is it's the Ravens' 24th straight preseason win, which 24 straight preseason wins. That sounds like something that should be impressive, but considering it's only preseason, is it really? I mean, honestly, sorry, Ravens fans, but the answer to that is no, it's not, because preseason games don't count toward win-loss record and seeding come playoff time. They don't count at all. So, sorry, that don't mean anything. Now, as far as the game itself goes, we're going to mainly look over some of the Eagles players and what they did in this one. Marcus Mariota, okay, he's solid for the time he played. A few nice runs. Had a nice little completion at one point. You know, decent game for Mariota. What you expect? I mean, Mariota's a capable quarterback, but he's never really been considering where he was drafted, considering his high ceiling, he is a bust, borderline bust. But he's not necessarily a scrub either. But that's ultimately why Mariota is now a backup QB. I mean, if you ever need him in a game, he could be a good backup QB. Like, if heaven forbid, like if we were to say Hurts were to miss a game against the Cardinals during the regular season, that could be a favorable game that you could start Mariota in, because let's face it, the Cardinals, that should be a favorable game to at least start a backup like Mariota if you have to. Or maybe a team like the Rams might be another one. Or possibly, I mean, those are some games right there that could be favorable. But it's going to be tough. You're going to need Hurts there, though, during the regular season. Make no mistake about it. I'm just saying Mariota is a solid backup QB. I do feel he's better than Minshew. He at least has some credentials from his time with the Titans. Had a playoff win, completed a touchdown pass to himself in that win. But, a decent backup QB. So, kind of what you expect from Mariota. Notable highlights to a Jalen Carter. First play, a first sacrificial play. He came in, laid a big hit. Yep, he showed his presence, made his presence felt, getting to the QB, making a big hit. That's exactly what the Eagles wanted from Jalen Carter, and that's what we want from him as fans. As long as he stays out of further trouble off the field, be a good pick, good pick for the Eagles, and hopefully live up to the hype. Hopefully he doesn't go the Lawrence Phillips route where he has all these off the field issues and they're forced to cut him. So as long as he stays out of trouble, it looks promising there with Jalen Carter. In the running back room, it's going to be interesting to see how we do right there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up the stats right there, the individual player stats. We can take a look at how the player did. We're going to take a look at that right there in a minute. Share the screen with you. So I'm pulling it up on ESPN. We're going to go by stats right here, and I'll share this with you guys in a minute. Now, obviously, Jalen Hurts and those guys didn't get starting time, which is obviously expected. Preseason game. I mean, I was hoping they'd at least get one or two drives just to have them get their feet wet, metaphorically, but that didn't happen. But let's see. We did you got Tanner McKee, 10 for 20, took one sack. Said Mariota, 7 for 11, 58 yards. Passing, had 4 runs, 29 yards, which, expected. Similar playing style to Hurts. As far as the run, Rashad Penny got the most carries, 34 yards on 9 carries, 3.8 yards average, along at 10. DeAndre Swift had 2 carries, 1 for 22, which to me shows that he could be the starter. And the fact that he got limited snaps in the first preseason game is also an indication that he's going to get starting minutes, because obviously the Eagles wanted to keep their starters resting. Right there, and then you got, who else did you get? And of course, you think Boston Scott got nothing. Trey Sermon got some carries, but you're not going to see much of him during the regular season. You had Greg Ward Jr. Remember, he filled in 2019 when we were battered, injury riddled. He had 5 receptions, 53 yards, long as 17. Tyree Cleveland, 5 receptions, 68 yards. I mean, nothing truly special there, but, it's a preseason game. I mean, most notably, you did have, like I said, that Jalen Carter hit on the defensive side. Oh, yeah, Eli Ricks had that one pick and a few pass deflections, but that was also against backup guys for the Ravens. So, not to take away from it, but it was a nice little highlight play. I mean, possibility Mr. Ricks will earn a practice squad spot, possibly. Hello, Raphael. Thanks for stopping by. Hope you're enjoying this. Like I said, so score box wise, it's not a whole lot to take away. Preseason, it's mainly about the individual performances. It's for the guys who are trying to make roster spots to at least prove they could at least make the practice squad, or at least if they need to get bumped up to the roster, at least step in a little bit. It's mainly there to determine like the roster spots, like who's going to be the second, the backup center, backup left tackle, second, third defensive back, so on and so forth. That's mainly what you're going to be getting out of preseason. So, but hey, I mean, it is nice to at least see the Eagles back, at least see how our players do. And you'd have a decent return from Britton Covey late, which shows, but then again, last year we didn't see much of him as a return man. So nothing that impressed me, at least. But we do have, though, there's something interesting to think about. We look at the players on the roster. We do have Greg Ward there now, and we do know we do need some depth at wide receiver, particularly with like the third and fourth receivers. And we know who our number 1 and 2 guys are. It's clearly A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, 1 and 2. No questions asked. Unless someone gets injured, then they need to put a fill in. We all know that's 1 and 2, but you still got to figure out who's going to be your 3, who's going to be your 4. Could Greg Ward possibly get a call back up to the roster and get some snaps? Remember, we don't have Zach Pascal anymore there. Help us. Could he get some time? What about Quez Watkins? What's he going to do? I mean, I do think possibly we could at least consider giving Greg Ward some playing time during the regular season in the third or fourth slot. Maybe he'll get a few targets his way. And plus, you got to consider with wide receivers, you got to evaluate these receivers. You got to consider, heaven forbid, AJ or Devontae gets injured. Obviously, you don't want that to happen. But you do have to be realistic. It could happen. You have to, if you're the Eagles, be like, okay, what do we do in this situation? Who are we going to insert that happens? So it's important that you at least get a look at your other receivers to see what they can do. So that way you can figure out, okay, if we need them, what do you do? Try to get another look at this Tyree Cleveland guy, see if he could maybe work his way to the practice squad. Maybe as the season goes along, work his way up to the roster. You should at least see what you got with him. Try to give him some more looks in preseason. I think you got to at least give these guys some more time, see what they can do. Now, obviously, some of these guys here that are getting some looks, they're not making the roster, obviously. Some of them aren't, but maybe one or two could. You want to weed out the weakest links to decide, okay, who are we keeping on the roster? Who are we not? It's not just wide receiver. It's all the positions too. And with linebacker, that's another one we got to discuss right there too, because we had a major injury happen at linebacker as well. So, yeah, that's something we got to discuss. Yeah, Sean Bradley went down with a torn Achilles in that loss. So that means no Sean Bradley for the season. So we got to look at the linebacker room now. You know, it's these guys you got to see what these guys can do. You know, it's time to see, give Nakobe Dean some playing time in preseason. You know, give the rest of your guys there some playing time. See what these guys can do, because you're already going to be down one linebacker. You know that for sure. So you got to at least see what you got right there. I mean, I'll have to pull up our roster, take a look at our linebacker room, so we see, all right, who do we have? So I'm going to go through the depth chart in a minute. I'll load that right there. So, well, I'll share the screen with you guys in a second, going down defense. Once I got it up, I'll share the screen with you. All right, here we go. So we're going to share the screen with you guys in just a second. So let's take a look right there. So you guys can follow along. Okay, got Hassan Reddick. Obviously, he's going to be there. And you got Nakobe Dean, Miles Jack, who we acquired, former Jaguar, former Steeler. As long as those guys are healthy, they'll definitely get some playing time. You got Christian Ellis, Nicholas Morrow. That's a position battle right there. Got to keep our eyes out, see how those guys do. So going forward to the Eagles, definitely got to give those two guys snaps, especially in this upcoming one against the Browns. See how those guys do, so you can get a better evaluation of who's going to take that spot. So that's a definite must going forward in this upcoming preseason game against the Browns. Now, obviously, safety and secondary room, we pretty much got most of that figured out. Although Reed Blankenship is safety, yeah, that doesn't provide much hope. Although, obviously, I can tell not having C.J. Gardner-Johnson there, it's just not going to feel the same at safety without him there. I mean, Kayvon Wallace is just, he's not the same player, so it's not going to be the same. But we're definitely going to have to see how those guys do as well. So we're definitely I'm mainly looking out to see the linebackers and the backups and the wide receivers to see who's going to get the 3 and 4. That's going to be my main focus going forward. And what I'm going to look at for this upcoming game against the Browns, something else I want to evaluate right there as well. Now I'm going to go back a little bit, take a look at the game stats again, see how some of these guys did real quickly. The defensive side of the ball, you got Miles Jack. I mean, he got some playing time. He got some tackles. He had a total. Miles Jack had just lost it real quickly. Sorry about that. Oh, he had total 3 tackles, 1 sole tackle. Yeah. Kyron Johnson had a couple tackles in there. So you got some of those guys in there. You got, let's see, you got, of course, like Reddick didn't play, of course, in those guys. You got Nolan Smith. Nolan Smith play at all? Let's see. Nolan Smith get any playing time? Let's see. Defensive stats, Nolan Smith. I don't think they don't. I don't know. Nolan Smith doesn't look like he got any playing times. I'm not sure about him. And, of course, Patrick, let's Let's see, Patrick Johnson. I mean, I'm still hoping Nicholas Morrow, Christian Ellis. Did they get any playing time? Ellis. Oh, Nick Morrow got some playing time. 4 tackles, 3 sole tackles. Yeah, but we didn't get a whole lot of our linebackers. They didn't get a whole lot in that game involved a whole lot. I'm hoping that our linebackers can get involved in the games a little bit more going forward. But that's definitely something we got to keep an eye out for. Let's see if these linebackers get more involved before, because we didn't get a whole lot of involvement in terms of tackles and pass deflections from our linebackers in the first preseason game. We'll have to definitely see what those linebackers do going forward so we can sort out this position battle and see, okay, who's going to be where on the depth chart come regular season time. That's something we definitely got to keep an eye out for right there. But yeah, obviously, so yeah, but I'll definitely be keeping an eye out to see what happens right there. I mean, there's not much else to say about the first preseason game. It's the first game. We'll have to ultimately see how they do going forward. We'll have to see what happens in this next preseason game against the Browns. And it's going to be Thursday, 7:30, and we're going to be home for that. So it's our first official home game, technically. And we know there was a joint practice, and from what we're hearing, the Browns got the better of us in the joint practice. But you know what? It's just a practice. Let's not overreact to it just yet. I'm not going to get that upset about it. All I'm saying is, look, if things didn't go right in that joint practice, let's let the Eagles take notes. Let Sirianni and the rest of the coaching staff take notes and decide, okay, going forward, look, we got to do something. Okay, here's what we didn't do well today. Here's what we got to fix. And hopefully they can fix it and work on it. And that's what practice is ultimately for. So let's not overreact yet. Let's give these guys a chance to at least turn things around. Let's give them a chance to evaluate, see what went wrong, and see what they need to work on and actually work on it. And, preseason game, I mean, I would like to at least see, again, I know I said it about the previous game, but I'd like to at least see the starters get 1 or 2 drives. I mean, because I don't want them to go through entire preseason with no drives at all. I mean, you got to at least give the starters some playing time, at least a little bit. I mean, I understand you don't want to run the risk of injuries. I get that. But you got to give them some snaps to at least get the rust off from the offseason. Shake off that offseason rust. Get them get some of that experience back, Well, you know what I mean. But they got to do it. So I think I'd like to see that. And I'd like to see, like I said, the linebackers, some of the defensive backs, and the running backs do. Those are the main ones I'm looking out for to help. Well, actually, the wide receivers beside AJ and Devontae, because we know that's a 1 and 2 lock. But I want to see how those guys do. That's what I'm looking forward to in this upcoming preseason game. I feel like I made my point now. I've talked enough about the Eagles preseason for now, but we'll have to wait and see what happens against the Browns. Come back, talk about it later. But yes, now, we're still on the subject of the NFL. There's some other NFL news I want to talk about. That's right, folks. There was two big free agent signings yesterday that made news. First, you had Ezekiel Elliott. Yes, that Zeke. He's now going to be in the AFC East with the New England Patriots on a 1-year deal. $6 million on a 1-year deal. I mean, solid contract for a 1-year deal. I mean, for a running back who's coming off, whose lowest season, but even his lowest season last year, his lowest rushing season, he had at least 800 plus yards running, which is still pretty solid. I mean, he's not the same back that he was, but Zeke was still last year good for the Cowboys in short yardage situation. He's still good in the pass blocking game. So obviously Ezekiel Elliott, yeah, he's not the number one. He's not the main running back that he used to be when he won 2 rushing titles, but Zeke can still be a productive back. And obviously the Patriots are looking for something at this point. And we know the Patriots are mainly going to be a run team because let's face it, Mac Jones, I'm sorry, he's not that guy. Obviously, the Patriots are going to rely on Stevenson and Zeke to help with the carries. Now, for those of you playing fantasy football, that's not going to be the best right there, especially if you were, because I had one buddy at work yesterday told me he was looking at Rondé Moore Stevenson in one of his mock fantasy drafts. But then shortly after that, he got the news that Zeke was there, and he knows that's going to hurt his carries. He was even thinking about trying to luck his way into getting Rondé Moore and Zeke for his fantasy and use them as his 1 and 2. So obviously, that's what made me think of that one right there. So yeah, obviously for some fantasy users, they're thinking of getting Rondé Moore Stevenson, not the most exciting news. But for New England, it's a solid pickup. It helps them out because he could still, if used right, in that short yard situation used for pass blocking, can still be effective. I mean, obviously, so I knew somebody was going to eventually pick him up, but that's a good spot for a team like the Patriots that are looking for some extra help at running back. That's a good place to have Zeke in, especially now with the NFL. You know, with running backs, you don't have you don't have a lot of teams going with that main running back that's that workhorse back. You don't get a whole lot of it anymore. You got the Titans with Derrick Henry, but a lot of teams now use 2-3 back rotations. And having Stevenson and Zeke fits that mold right there. So obviously this is a nice pickup for the Patriots right there. Now we'll have to see how it pans out in the regular season. Now it is interesting because the Patriots and Cowboys will see each other week 4, which means as long as Zeke stays healthy and he doesn't get in trouble or get suspended or anything like that, we will be seeing Ezekiel Elliott versus the Cowboys. They'll at least give that game something interesting right there for the sports media to talk about going into it. And yep, we also have to see how it works out for Zeke. I think it's a good move for the Patriots. I mean, I don't think that's going to necessarily, Zeke itself is going to put them in contention, but it's a nice move at running back for them. Now, for the other running back signing, you got Dalvin Cook got picked up. Now, it was a bit odd that the Vikings cut him, but hey, it happened. And obviously, he was looking at the Jets. And like the last big move they made, it took a little bit of time for it to be official, but it happened. So Dalvin Cook is now on the New York Jets, and that gives him a little bit of room in the running back. And assuming Breece Hall, who was having a nice rookie season before his injury, comes back and he's still able to come back in form, that would be a nice 1-2 there with Hall and Dalvin Cook. And also you got Rodgers on the same team with Dalvin Cook, which is interesting. Those guys spent all that time being in the NFC North competing against each other. Now you got Aaron Rodgers and Dalvin Cook on the same team. Oh, that's an interesting one right there. But hey, sometimes it happens in sports. But, you know, a lot of times when it's division rivals, there's a mutual respect format of it, and that's what's happening here. But I mean, Cook, that'll be a good 1-2 duo right there as long as, you know, both guys are able to stay in the lineup with Breece Hall and Dalvin Cook. I think that's a good move right there. But also for the Jets, most importantly, you're going to need Aaron Rodgers to be on point because even last year with the Packers, yeah, you had a nice 1-2 duo at running back, Aaron Jones, A.J. Dillon, but what about Rodgers' passing mechanics? You started to see Rodgers slip a little bit as a passer last year. If that continues this year with the Jets, that could spell a little bit of trouble right there for them. If things don't, you know, if Rodgers takes a dip. Now, I've talked about in my NFL preview videos, I think the Jets might fall slightly short of the playoffs because they're in a loaded AFC. And I'm not sure if Rodgers, I don't think he's completely washed, but he has taken a bit of a dip down in terms of performance. I don't think he's the exact same quarterback we know him to be. I think, which is natural with his age. So I think the Jets might fall short, might be looking out of the side of the playoffs, but ultimately we will have to see. But yeah, so the Dalvin Cook, though, yeah, nice for the running game, but we still got to see what Rodgers does in the pass game from the Jets' point of view. We'll have to see. But again, because we played the AFC East this year, we'll be seeing the Jets and the Patriots. So we'll be seeing both Ezekiel Elliott and Dalvin Cook again, just in different uniforms. So yeah, we'll be having that for sure. Now, it's interesting there. You're going to have Randall Cobb there with them as well. You got Liz Izzard, and who's the other one that's with them? I mean, I don't mean to ramble on, but the thought that came to my mind right there. However, though, the main thing is Ezekiel Elliott, Dalvin Cook have been signed, so the talk is over. They're on a roster. We'll see how they do with their teams. And there is one other main thing I wanted to talk about. I mean, right now, there is football related. Now, it's not related to any of this upcoming season, but it is a big story football wise. Some of you guys may know about it, but unfortunately, we got some news that Michael Orr, former Ravens Panthers offensive tackle Michael Orr, former blindside blocker, has come forward with allegations that his supposed adoptive family tricked him into signing a conservator contract, which meant they would get all the money. They could get all the business endorsements off his name. So, like, for the blind side, all the money that Michael Orr could have gotten off that story, that actually goes to not him, but it goes to, what's their last name again? It goes to the Toye family. Instead, it goes to Sean and Leanne Toye instead of him. And it's such a shame, too, that this happened because, I like a lot of people, thought I enjoyed The Blind Side. It was an awesome movie. It was a great story. It's one of those stories. How could you not enjoy that story when you look at the story? Michael Orr coming from nothing, learning how to adapt to the game of football, going to Ole Miss and eventually getting drafted by the Ravens. And they went over his high school point, mainly his senior year, then to him getting recruited to Ole Miss, and they skipped ahead to the moment they showed the real footage of him getting drafted, which was a feel-good moment. It was a great way to end that movie. But now, sadly, with all this news coming out, I hate to say it, but it takes away that joy from that movie now, knowing that a lot of the stuff in that movie wasn't really as it was portrayed. It feels like The Blind Side was one big lie now, sadly. Obviously, when you make a movie out of a true story, there's going to be some stuff that's tweaked up for the Hollywood effects. I get that. But, oh, man, really? But this goes, knowing this news, that really the Toys were basically making money off his name, going behind his back. A lot of money he could have made from The Blind Side on top of his NFL contract he lost out on. It's such a shame. But this now ties into a life advice thing, too. To everyone out there, regardless of whether you're young, middle-aged, older, be careful who you trust in this world. Make sure you know what you're signing off on when you sign off on anything. But definitely, make sure you fully understand when you sign a contract for employment or for finance or for your rent or for rent or whatever the case may be, for card, anything you sign a contract for in life, please make sure you understand the context of what you're signing before you sign it, especially for younger people. No offense, but sometimes they can get tricked, and that's unfortunately what happened with Michael Orr shortly after he turned 18 in 2004. He got taken advantage of. And now that you think about it, it puts something else into perspective. Notice that Michael Orr didn't really talk about The Blind Side. Even after the movie came out, the real Michael Orr didn't talk about it. He just focused on his football career and didn't really say anything about it. And looking back on it now, we know deep down inside, because a lot of it was slightly slanted, slightly misconstrued, particularly the part making it seem like he was mentally slow, which a lot of it wasn't exactly true. And I think that Michael Orr didn't like the way he was portrayed as unintelligent in the movie. And looking now, we understand that. Now we understand why he never really talked about it. He just focused on his football career instead. I think deep down inside, he didn't like it, but he didn't want to say anything about it because he didn't want to stir up any controversy. So he went all those years hiding how he really felt about the movie. It's such a shame these things happen, but it is part of life. And there's one life lesson, like I said, we can all learn from it. Be careful in this world who you trust. And because anybody in this world could stab you in the back, go behind your back, manipulate you. And after thinking about it, really made me think about this. Sometimes people in life can be nice to us, but they're only doing it with ulterior motives. We want to believe that certain people that are being nice to us, doing favors for us, are doing it out of the kindness of their heart. We want to believe that, but sometimes in life, you got to realize some people might be only being nice to you with an ulterior motive, especially when it comes to your career, especially when it comes to your day job. That's something you really got to watch out for. Now, I'm not saying that everybody at your job is going against you with an ulterior motive, because first off, I don't know who your coworkers are exactly where you work, but there are some people out there, especially in the business world, they'll put the cash ahead of you and can't always trust them. So let that be a life lesson. Please be careful who you trust. Make sure you know what you're signing off on. Those are the main things I wanted to talk about for this episode. We don't really have much else to talk about. I mean, Phillies, they kind of got hot a little bit last week. Then they started to drop off a few games in embarrassing fashion. They're still in the wild card mix, but now, mid-August heading into September, we have to see what the Phillies do there, because this is the most important time of the season for them. But yes, I mean, right now, there's the link to my channel. So for those of you that haven't gotten my channel yet, you can type in the link on a separate tab and sub up my channel if you haven't done so already. And also, I'm doing this on the Hardcore Sports Network as well. So for those of you that haven't checked out the Hardcore Sports Network, there's the link to that right there. You guys can check that out. You tell me about it. And look at, and the scores of those two games were embarrassing too, especially the shutout. Ooh. Yeah, they were embarrassing. But yeah, actually, this is a little bit, I'm going to be ending this a little bit earlier than expected. Usually I try to reach the 40-minute mark, but in this case, I pretty much got what I got for you guys. But one thing's for sure, once we hit September and we hit football season, I'll have a lot to talk about there. I'll be talking about the Eagles, recapping their games, as well as recapping other games in the league. So there'll be a lot to talk about come football season, just from a football standpoint, period. So I'll definitely be doing some longer episodes then. But for this one, we hit a little over the 30-minute mark. So to everyone that tuned in for this one, thanks for tuning in. If you haven't done so already, just drop a like, subscribe to whatever platform you're watching this on. And most of all, enjoy the rest of your day. And until next time, it is Nicky Steez signing off.